Well, I know you're going to be shocked, but Pee Wee Herman was in Florida when he got arrested for masturbating in a public place.
Is that where that happened?
Of course. Where else would it happen? And let me just say this before we answer this Germany or Florida question, because we love to make a jokes about what an armpit Florida is. It's actually shaped sort of like an armpit, if you think about it. And there was this guy who, like, in the 80s, was managing a motel, living in a motel. You know, that super skinny white trash guy with the mustache and the salt and pepper hair. And he's, like, living in a motel with this chick. And he's married to her, and she's driving his car and all this stuff. And then one day she just disappears, and he disappears too. And they're like, yes, he was in the motel in, I'm like, Florida! Florida! Yeah. And we were able to, after scouring, Florida, after looking through the, Florida, we found him in Florida. I'm like, you found him in Florida? Why'd you go to Florida? That's all. If I'm a cop, that's where we start. Look, Drew, how many times do I have to say that all evil either emanates from Florida or resides there at some point during its evil reign?
Right.
Look, and anybody who's listening to me who's currently looking for somebody, you know, any felon that's on the lam, anybody that's caused that,
Florida,
go to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, any dads who aren't paying child support, whatever, go to Florida. They're all there. They're either born there or they die there. It's always Florida. It's always something with Florida. I don't know what that is, but I don't. It's maybe the humidity. You know how the bugs grow bigger over there?
Yes.
Giant cockroaches and mosquitoes and alligators and stuff like that. Why wouldn't that same state produce some of the worst people? I mean, look at it this way. You got horrible poisonous snakes and water moccasins.
Praying mantis.
You got praying mantises. You have all these horrible insects and these horrible reptiles that are. There's more man-eating stuff going on in Florida than in any other state.
Sharks down there.
It's all horrible over there, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it stand to reason that maybe they're breeding some bad people too?
Why not?
It makes perfect sense to me. So. All right. All I'm saying is if you're in Florida now, just stay there. You guys duke it out. Eventually, I'm going to fence it off, and we'll start a penal colony. Well, how do we know he's in Florida? Look, if we hurry, we'll beat him there. He's either on his way to Florida or he's there now. That's it. Is there some sort of sign in front of Florida that's just like, welcome felons, just welcome deadbeat dads, welcome dregs of society? Like, well, how does that work? Do you think... Is the United States, like, shaped, is it some sort of, like, white trash funnel where they're almost compelled? Like, are they salmon going back to spawn? You know, maybe every white trash degenerate started in Florida, and they're like salmon, like, where they go, like, how do they know the exact pond they humped in? I don't know. They just know. That's where they go. They go to Florida. And I'm surprised that I need to share this. I need to have like a seminar with law enforcement. Like, stop searching the other 49 states. Just go to Florida. What are you doing wasting the taxpayer money? They're in Florida.
Very simple.
It's 25 years later, and the guy's living in Florida, and he's got the crappy salt and pepper mustache, and he's just sitting there looking guilty as sin, and like, you know, it's that kind of thing where it's like, so she took off in your car, and you say she left the motel? Yeah. And you didn't call the police? No, I didn't. And you just left? Yeah, figured she wasn't coming back. And it was your car, and you were making the payments on it? Mm-hmm. And you didn't want to call the insurance company or anything? No. And by the way, his mom co-signed for it. So that's for the car. That's the other 79 Thunderbird. That's the other clue he was in Florida, because anytime your mom, as an adult, co-signs for a car, that means you're eventually going to Florida. Yeah, or in Florida. I was just screaming. I was screaming guilty in Florida the entire time. All right. Okay. You know what? All Florida, like, here's what I picture Florida: athletes and felons. I just figure half of Florida filled with white trash, deadbeat dads, and then Shaquille. That's what I picture. I'm convinced if Jimmy Carter moved to Florida, after about 3 weeks, like he'd say to Rosalind, you know, let's go kick the shit out of some Mexicans.
Or homeless.
Or let's go, you know what?
Homeless Mexicans.
And like Carter'd be walking out the front door, and she'd be like, "Where are you going with that lighter fluid and that bic? Don't worry about it, bitch." Yeah, like, and don't forget to feed my boa constrictor, bitch.
Of course, they'd have exotic pets after a few months.
And he'd hop into an IROC Z.
She would be down a tooth.
She'd be down a tooth.
And cutoffs and a tube top.
Yeah, yeah. She'd just be like smoking and ashing into the frying pan, and he'd come back after setting some bum on fire, and he'd be like, "Fuck that Habitat for Humanity. Let those poor fucks get their own houses. I'm done with this shit. Put on some Arena League football." Leslie Stahl would be there, and she'd be like, "Jimmy, you want a blowjob? Come on, man.
$5.
$5.
And 2 cigarettes.
$5, man. 2 cigarettes."
Well,
for like just the time I'm in the air going to New York, I feel dumber for flying over Florida. Oh, I guess I don't fly over Florida to get to New York, but the point is, sometimes there's turbulence and I got to reroute. Oh, boy. Thank God Eunice Kennedy never moved to Florida.
What would have become of her?
She'd be like, "You know what? Let those tards do their own Olympics. Fuck that. I'm getting high in the park."
Now, how do you think Maria Shriver would have turned out if she'd been raised in Florida?
She would have been walking around with a tube top with one boob hanging out. Still would have married Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, somehow
that part hasn't changed.
That'd be the same.
Yeah, it's oh God, it's the dumbest state in the union.